welcome back to another Touchpoint Group Insights session. It is 2023 and we are looking back at the 2022 year in review for the US regional banking category. Some tough times for the US regional banks there as far as performance goes, Tony. Some little gains and some little wins, but I think the overarching story is it's been tough for them, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks, Glenn. So the US regionals, it has been tough for them. There's been no major improvements, but some are doing pretty well still. So just we have to look at that from that perspective as well. So yeah, TD Bank, Regions, FithThird, Citizens, KeyBank, and Huntington. Let's have a look at how they've done across the year. So first of all, there's a lot of inconsistency. So like one of the things we can see is even though, for example, I'll use TD as an example, they've done pretty well across the whole year, but they've had some issues in the past quarter. So from October to December, we can see there. So they need to pick themselves up in that sense. One of the things that Citizens has done reasonably well, they've actually averaging around between 3.2 and 3.5 at the start of the year, and they've picked themselves up a bit near the end of the year. So reasonably good, and sitting around 3.75 later in the year. One of the things, though, which you can clearly see here is that there's one bank has had an issue recently, and we can see that FithThird has dropped away. And in fact, we'll show in a moment the table across North America is that score in December is actually the lowest across all the 24 banks. So, but that's connected to an app relaunch with it's a total revamp of the app in a sense. Now, one of the things about FithThird is we could see some things happening in August and September, and then the relaunch happened probably around November, and we can see there it dropped away very fast. And so let's have a look at that though and see what why has it impacted things. So one of the things we're looking at, this is just FithThird, is what are the app releases? What's the app release cycle coming on here? So we can see version 4 is sitting there in November. So that's when we saw that large drop. So it dropped away hard in November. Then we see version 4.01 coming through. So obviously some tweaks, some app updates to some extent, but that hasn't fixed things as we saw. It's remained low. It's remained at that low level. Then, of course, there was we can see here when that new other release came through, which was mid-December, and that's version 4.1. So it's obviously it's a more major release, trying to adapt a few things, and that's hit mid-December. And again, we see December has not improved at all. It's remained at that low level. So version 4.1 hasn't fixed things. So why is that? So why hasn't it fixed those things? So one of the things we can look at, this is looking at FithThird in here. So this is looking at what's the vibe, what's the sort of broad conversation going on. We can see here it's about the new update, the horrible update, new app. There's a few things about seeing the balance and so on, but again, it's just about the new app in general and not being user friendly and things like that. Let's look at it from a more sort of technical perspective around what are the major topics coming through. So they talk about current app version and the previous app version. So obviously the app version is the issue here. So one of the things that's coming through is it's not about technical issues. It's not about things breaking down. Essentially, it's about confusion and design. So there's a few things going through there. So again, even if that version 4.1 that FithThird put through, they might have fixed a few technical issues, but the design is fundamental. So you can't necessarily change that overnight. So there needs to be possibly some communication to customers, or just understanding where the journeys for customers might be breaking down in this case. So be good to see what happens in January as customers get used to this. We do generally see this drop as a major release and a new functionality comes into play. Let's see how that impacts in January. What I'd like to do now though is just have a look at what we talked about before, which is having a look at the year in review. So what's happening across the whole year. So one of the things we can see here, and just looking at the regionals, so these ones highlighted on the left, the regionals aren't doing as well as some of these national banks and tier ones. They're sitting, the best is TD at 8th, and TD is doing pretty well. So an award goes out to TD essentially for across the whole year for the US regionals for doing well and actually leading in this category here. Although consistently, they haven't done that well. They've actually dropped off in the past quarter, so I can't give them an award for consistency in this case. Now, Citizens is interesting. Citizens sort of started out, you can see the sort of flow of a bit of red at the start of the year, sitting below 3.5, but they have picked up at the start of the year. So that consistent growth is an award I can give out to Citizens, because they have actually improved things across the year. From that sort of below 3.5 to now actually for the second half of the year being 3.5 and above consistently. So very well done to them. Others we can see down the bottom here. Now, one of the things that's interesting is we can see the likes of KeyBank and Huntington and so on. They're sitting low. But one of the things about we saw with FithThird that it hasn't done that well recently. And what we can actually see that in the rank. So we can see here across 2022, their rank is 16th, so middle of the road to some extent. But out of the 24 banks we're covering just here for North America, they're 24th in the last quarter and also 24th in December. So obviously they've hit that low point, but room to improve as customers get used to those new changes. So let's just have a look at the year in review in terms of what are the conversations, where do each of these apps stand out? Now, I won't cover each of these in detail. Let's look at TD though, which has led in this category here. So good app usability, easy to use. So easy to use app. So although that we can see here, a few of the journeys are popping out, like poured check deposit feature is popping out a few times. And the Zelle payment feature has also popped out a few times as somewhere to improve. A few things like app crashes, but in general, we don't see sort of a standout of major issues going on here. So very good. Let's have a look at, one of the other ones near the top there, like Citizens, has actually improved across the year. So what do they look like in comparison to their competitors in here? So easy to use, good app usability and so on. And we also have in here just things popping up spontaneously, like good user interface. So they've done very well in here, but a few things are popping out that are negative. Like there's a few, forced to log in multiple times, forced to reset password, app login, lockout. So there's a few things about logging in that need to be improved for them. Let's have a look at the one bank we're looking at now, which is FithThird. So how are they standing out compared to these competitors? So what we can see here is, we saw this before, current app version, previous app version. So this is now dominating their year in a sense, because of across the year, they're doing reasonably well. They've dropped off for that second half of the year. So let's look at one more, we've had a look at this in detail before. Let's look at Huntington though. Let's see how Huntington's gone. And so one of the things about this particular view you can see is that compared to others, we're seeing a few things popping out that are fairly negative, and things like poor app check deposit feature, things like app colors popping out, interesting, but app bugs and crashes are also there as well compared to others, and freezes and blank screen. So compared to others, Huntington looks like the UI is reasonably good. That doesn't stand out, so they can actually improve on those things like freezes and crashing to then bring themselves up into 2023. So an interesting year for regionals. They've got a lot to go up against for the US nationals and tier ones, but there's some positive news there as well. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, big year for many out there. And if anybody would like a copy of that ranking chart with the 24 banks on it, feel free to sing out. I'm more than happy to send it out to you. And really looking forward to 2023. The theme that is coming through from a lot of the banks that we work with is around cost savings and reducing customer churn. And utilizing this data to improve that experience is going to play a major impact on reducing that churn, and also things like reducing call center contact rates, which then again reduces overheads. So looking forward to seeing what happens as we progress through the year in 2023, and everybody have a great day.